What does your office do to help monitor and improve the water quality?
In the past, we've helped monitoring with the Pomme de Terre River Association. They have staff that will go out and help the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency monitor a lot of the water quality, and our office has assisted in times of need. But primarily, my office works at restoring or coming up with solutions for holding water onto the land. The wetland right behind us, for example, was built in 1988, or I should say restored, because it had been historically a wetland that was drained for farming purposes. But the landowner here, Ted Johnson, wanted to restore that to as close to the natural state as we could get. And so we put that in, and our office helped with the design on that and helped with finding the funding to do so. My office helps with remeandering streams. So again, we mentioned, one of the things we've done is straightened or altered the hydrology, so the water movement. And if we can restore that back, it's called sinuosity. If we can make that stream a little bit more windy, it'll actually slow the water down and will cause less issues downstream. We have 4 regional watersheds within our state, meaning that we have water that goes all over the place. If it drops here, some of it makes it to Hudson Bay up north of Canada. That would be the Suez Red Rainy watershed, the Missouri River watershed, which is in the southwest portion of the state, that eventually in Missouri actually has a confluence, or it meets up with the Mississippi River. We have the Upper Mississippi, which is the headwaters of Minnesota. I think that's everybody's pride and joy in the state, or at least it was mine when I was younger. And then we also have the Great Lakes watershed, which water will eventually move through the Great Lakes and make its way to the Atlantic Ocean. So we're sending water all over the place. And so if we can help, or my office can help restore some of that, the rechanneling, or reinforce some shoreline habitat, help build wetlands, it'll actually help all of those places because they're all downstream of us.
How does water quality affect fishing and our other recreational activities?
Well, we're Minnesotans, and it's ingrained in us to love water. At least that's the way I look at it. Growing up in Minnesota, I've always enjoyed going out and fishing, boating, tubing. Just like our plants on land, they need soil to grow in where they get their nutrients. They need sunlight and they need water. Well, aquatic plants, they have an abundance of water as long as the basin doesn't run dry. They may get plenty of nutrients from runoff or other material within the lake, but if that water's cloudy, they may not get the light that they need. And that can actually impact how much vegetation you have, which impacts habitat for fish and other little critters in the water. So each lake is unique in how productive it is, meaning how much vegetation, how much biomass it can produce. Kind of trying to find a balance of keeping those nutrients down, keeping the water as clear as we can, so that the ecology can just take over from there.
What does the term erosion mean?
Erosion is the earth essentially breaking apart and being transported somewhere. In the water cycle, when it rains down, the water itself can erode that land and send it to a different place. And there are several factors that go into how erosive an area might be. And it has to do with what kind of vegetation cover is out there. We're standing in a field right now, there's pretty good vegetation cover, so that soil might be held in place pretty well. We might not transport it down to that wetland. The other thing we look at is the weather. Weather patterns have been changing. We get higher intensity rain events in shorter periods of time. Another factor is slope. So the steeper an area is, there's more potential for that water to gain energy and erode away your soil or your grass or whatever's out on the land. And the last factor I want to talk about is sediment. The soil texture. What's made up in our soil? Soil is made up of sand, silt, and clay. Sand, large sand, is harder to transport with that water or move off the land. Clay is very, very fine, so fine that it actually layers itself up and can be a barrier to water and actually and help prevent from erosion. It can be sticky, for a lack of a better term, and hold stuff in place. But that silt area, the medium-sized soil particles, are really easy to be picked up and moved and sent downstream. Every area is going to erode a little bit different, but we can anticipate these things as managers and protect vulnerable areas.
So then what is shoreline restoration?
So in Minnesota, when we have lakes, again, lakes can vary depending on their depth, how much they move up and down throughout the year for the water level. And so shoreline restorations and designs are created to help protect the shoreline from those bounces and even from ice heaves. So on Pelican Lake, my office has made that a priority within the county and within the Pomme de Terre watershed. When we were doing our water planning for the state, we determined that Pelican Lake is on a tipping point for becoming impaired, meaning that if it becomes impaired, it's going to be a lot harder to handle the water quality issues. So we said we need to spend a lot of time here, and there is a lot of erosion happening along the shoreline. So we are putting in, we're helping landowners design and put in rock riprap and vegetation, different types of vegetation along that shoreline to hold that bank in place. How do we restore lakes after they become impaired or if there's too much sediment in them? And you sometimes see it in aerial photos where you see a big plume of sediment into a lake. That's because all that sediment's slowing down and dropping out. But it's very, very costly. And a lot of times in our smaller lakes within the state, we don't have the funding to do that. And it's not really efficient because it's just going to keep building up again unless we address the problem upstream. As for phosphorus in lakes, or when a lake's impaired for too much nutrients, once it's tipped to being really, really, really productive, meaning there's a lot of algae, a lot of plants in there, it's really hard to remove the phosphorus, especially if it's a shallow lake, because the nutrients just keep getting mixed up and mixed up and mixed up. So we try to cut it off before that happens because it's more efficient to protect the lake than to have to restore the lake. Algae is actually native to the area. So we have to pretty much all water body. There are many different types of algae. We have green algae, which is actually a type of plant. But the one everyone's concerned with is the cyanobacteria or the blue-green algae. A quick fact on that, they're not actually algae, but bacteria. And they're bacteria that are the most efficient at taking those nutrients and propagating or making more of themselves. And that's why we get those big green slime areas, because they get all that phosphorus that they soak up, make the water all cloudy, and can be very nuisance for all of us.
Is water quality a rural issue or an urban issue or both?
Well, it's rural, it's urban, it's shoreline, it's everyone. We influence the water, and we influence where water goes. In the cities, we've asphalt, or we have impervious surface everywhere, lawns everywhere. Kentucky bluegrass, for example, isn't very good at soaking up water, so it can actually act like a harder surface and a lot of water can run off of. In agricultural lands, it's the farmer's job to be more productive, to provide food for everyone, or energy, or wherever their products go. In doing so, making the land productive, they may alter the watershed for the worse. It might be for the better, but as we've seen in the state of Minnesota and actually across the world, generally there's some effects that happen when you alter the watershed that we have to address.
What are some of the things that I as a homeowner and our viewers can do to help improve water quality?
There are many things that you can do. If you live in an urban area, when you're mowing your grass, don't mow your clippings into the road, because it's just going to get washed in the storm drain and sent out. And that clipping is green, meaning there's still nutrients involved there. The other things you can do for water quality if you're on shoreline, make sure you keep some of that shoreline natural, or have some sort of vegetation, trees, to hold that soil in place. Because a lot of times if you alter that shoreline, we might not be able to come in and fix it. You might lose a large chunk of your land, and that just influences the water quality as well.